without any further ado, here we are, Heroes Hype Live, episode number 15. We got
My God.
Diva Buzz over here.
Baby Buzz.
Baby Buzz.
I don't know.
My name is Lauren, and we're joined by the good old-fashioned argument. Now, you know something about this argue guy.
I hear he's like the number one guy.
They don't like him like that anymore.
Yeah.
They don't like him like this guy anymore.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Word on the street.
Look behind this man. This man is esports heroes out of his mind.
I'm complete hashtag sellout today. So
Hashtag ad.
I
Yep.
sound robotic. The dreaded robot.
uh-oh. You sound fine to us, I think. At least to me. But
I think I know what it is. I can fix this.
Look at that advertising for Kieran Dansky right there too.
are you talking to me?
Yeah, they picked their placement of their signatures very well.
Oh, this thing. I thought you were talking about the
Yeah.
20 jersey.
Next level.
Oh,
Next
no.
level.
I can talk about this later.
Here we are, episode 15. We should be good to go now. I'm really excited. It feels like it's been forever since we've done a Heroes Hype live episode. A couple of weeks or so before BlizzCon?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks before, right before the finals.
Yeah, right before the finals, and what an electrifying Heroes Hype Tempo Storm series finale that was. Okay, I sound better? Sweet. Again, this is Heroes Hype Live episode 15, the place where you yourself, the audience, gets involved in a conversation. We talk about the ins and outs of the Heroes esports community worldwide, amateur, pro, unranked, tri-mode, the whole thing. Nice jersey. You know, this is my first time wearing one of these jerseys. These meta threads. Hey.
Dude, hype.
David at MetaThreads, like hooking it up. Such a cool. It looks so legit.
I got comments saying like people are jealous about these things. So
I mean,
here's like ones are dope.
just saying, they may go on sale at some point on our website. So
They are.
Keep a lookout.
As well. Interesting and true story. So, BlizzCon's here. We're out on the West Coast, living our lives. I meet up with the Heroes Hype folks. Calm before the storm. Man, it's the dad of the hero scene comes in with this big box, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Lauren, how's it going, man? I got your jerseys here for you." And I'm like, "There's a key way you worded that. You said jerseys." And he's like, "Yeah, you got two, right?" And I was like, "No, I didn't get two.
I got two.
and they were in different sizes too. I think.
I think they're both mediums."
Okay, I'm probably wrong.
But I was just stymied. I was like, why do I have two? I specifically ordered one. So I don't know if the good folks at Heroes Hype decided to get me one for some reason or not. Yeah, see? True story, man. This is there.
Thinking.
So you can always have one on, basically.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to do with that other one. Could be an interesting giveaway or something. Another cool thing is, I have an extra Blizzard backpack from BlizzCon. Like, in the plastic, unopened. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that either.
Pristine condition.
Dude, give it away. People love those backpacks, especially like people that didn't go. I think that the stuff that they gave this year was pretty cool. The patches were really cool.
In case one's in the wash, I can wear the other one. There we go. No, I think like the next big Heroes Hype thing that we do, it'd be a pretty cool idea to give it away. I don't have a need for it. I barely opened my own, so having another one's like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah,
so.
I pick up the Diva backpack from BlizzCon.
Hey.
I'm fully Diva now, but I really like that. The BlizzCon merch this year was like really cool. I've never been a collector, but BlizzCon made me like a collector. I had to like buy things so I could like have them all.
Mm-hmm.
BlizzCon is an interesting phenomenon. It was a vortex of time and energy. There were so many people I was trying to run into and hang out, and so many things I wanted to do. There's simply not enough time for it all. I argue we were supposed to track down Kala and do karaoke. That never
There was
found
supposed
the
to be
time.
karaoke at the party on Saturday, and there wasn't, and I was a little sad.
It was a feels bad moment for sure. But Ari, was that your first BlizzCon?
No, that was my second.
Your second? It was my second as well.
Yeah,
I was a baby.
I went
Is
in
that-
2015. I got to see Cloud9 win it all. It was pretty good.
Ooh, so like
the
a
Murphy
monumental one.
Yeah, I was in the second row when they picked Murky. It was hype.
Did you lose your mind? Were you like,
Yeah, words were said.
Little Argy out here saying words.
it's the energy of the crowd is crazy. Because like I had been to other events, like not as big as BlizzCon, right? I had been to PAX when they did an event at PAC West, and I had been to dorms last year too. But like BlizzCon was a completely different story. Like seeing how full that audience was, like day one when it was like half full, and then like the end of the finals, like that whole audience was full. And it was super crazy to just like feel that energy, like when the lights turn all red and everybody stands up and is screaming and cheering, and it was so much fun.
People care about
Yeah.
Heroes Esports, and it's an experience unlike much else. When you get to see that many people screaming their heads off, the bass you feel in your chest when someone gets taken down in a team fight, and everyone, it's not like Twitch, man. It gives me hope for the future of esports in general, because it's like, if we can generate this kind of excitement now, like, the best is still left ahead of us.
Yeah.
I honestly think the Heroes stage was the loudest of any esports stage too. Like people get insanely excited for Heroes compared to other games. I mean,
Yeah.
the other Blizzard games are really fun. Don't get me wrong.
Leval
But
says,
Heroes
I mean,
is like it's like another level.
oh, definitely. Leval said, I mean, I still stream at home as well. Between you and me, Leval, same.
Same.
Like I've jumped off my couch and was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like windows open. One time, it was back when Chrome was on Gale Force. I was watching one of their team fights, and Chrome made some kind of play, and I jumped up. I was like, yeah, and my windows were open. So there was this person, like one of my neighbors was walking by outside, looked me dead in my face after I was just like screaming my head off, and I was like, I can't take that back, and I'm not going to. Like that this is a thing that just happened between the both of us now.
And you just have to deal with it. Just
Right.
let it go.
At least you had the clothes on and you weren't just like naked screaming in your house. They're like, look, that'd be more awkward.
that would take it to a different place. Yeah, I was clothed at the moment, but my socks were knocked off. Okay.
Looking like Tom Cruise on your couch.
Hey, risky business indeed with the windows. BlizzCon though, tour de force. A lot was said. A lot was announced. In a lot of ways, when you think about the cumulative changes that are on the horizon for Heroes, not only in terms of the game itself, but also with its esports expansion, Blizzard is ever more committed to seeing HGC become bigger and better than it ever was. It almost feels like this is Heroes 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it definitely like kicked into gear, right? That we reached this Heroes 2.0 point, and like esports has really come online, and the rest of the game has changed enough that it feels like so much more solid, and we're continuing that too, right? Like there's a lot of, like you said, changes. They're like in the shoot and that are in the PTR that are really big changes for this game.
Yeah.
And
These changes remind me a lot of the scaling changes that happened early last year. Where it like completely changed how the game, or no, it was early 2016 that it happened. And it completely changed, like flipped how the game was done, basically. And I think that's what's going to happen here.
And the responses that I've seen from the community is largely positive, from both competitive and professional players, on to those like you and me. I've had a chance to jump on a PTR and play a few games, it's interesting because like you're so used to the timing of the battlegrounds, and you're like, all right, 2 minutes or so, whatever, the temple's gonna show up, and it doesn't, and you're just like, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
The laning phase feels very different.
More
And
competitive. Does it feel
absolutely,
more competitive? Yeah.
I think it's gonna make the solo lane role all the more important because the micro level 1v1 back and forth of trying to force out the neutral region globe to kind of snowball an advantage, it's going to change the dynamic of competitive play considerably, and I'm really excited to see what happens there.
I think that the ammo changes are also really neat, and sort of just like the whole tower fort changes that are happening. I think those are kind of really interesting, and how that works with stealth now, and all the stealth changes.
Mhm. I'm excited. Mainly, I like the camera distance thing. I've been able to play like one game, and I guess I'm so used to observing, I guess, at this point that I'm just used to that camera distance. It actually feels weird when I'm playing Hero League and I'm really close. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
I can't see anything.
Yeah, basically. So that change is nice, and like it doesn't affect me that much, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, those of us that watch a lot of competitive heroes, Argy, the Eye in the Sky, doing the obs work during HeroesHype Tempo Storm and other things. You get so used to that zoomed out mode when you log in to live right now. You're like, wait, I need my 3D glasses. Like, but when you play on the PTR right now, if you don't actively look for it, I feel like you might overlook it. But the information that you gain and overall just sense of control over the flow of the game is profound. Blame Pink says, as far as I'm concerned, this will be Heroes 2.0, like Lawrence said. The thing earlier this year was Heroes Shop 2.0.
Yeah.
You're not wrong,
Yeah.
Ken. You're not wrong.
Loot boxes are under a lot of scrutiny right now, definitely. But I don't mind. I mean, I like customization stuff in loot boxes. I like how pretty the game is since 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the actual Heroes 2.0 announcement was more about progression and customization, and like Ping said, bringing out the shop and revitalizing all of that. But these 2018 changes are specifically about what happens when you load into the game. And I think the camera shift makes the game feel cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what the best word to really describe it, but it's just like the game feels more professional to me.
Is it grown up?
Yeah, like it feels more mature in a way. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but when you load in, you're moving around, and it's just like, I wish it was like this a long time ago. The laning phase is gonna have a huge impact. Like I said, the neutral region globes are gonna offer a lot of playmaking options, and I'm still personally on the fence about the lack of ammo. Do you guys think it's like how are you guys feeling about that?
I haven't played it enough to know for sure, but like just from tweets from pro players, they don't know how to react to it quite yet. Some of it's negative, some of it's positive, but like no one's used to it yet, so we don't really know for sure. It's kind of like a hero change. Like people overreact and say, "Oh my god, this hero is busted," or "Oh my god, this hero is done out of the meta," and then like a month later they're back. Like we just have to wait, I think, and get used to it, and then we can really say like if it's good.
I'd agree.
And it's interesting because I just think it changes, like you're saying, like how the lane is handled, right? And there's like a lot of in lane how you're going to handle things, and then I think that the ammo also couples with like the minions, right? That the minions do less damage, so I think that you have to have more of a presence in lane. And I think that in a lot of times in heroes there's a lot of just like, all right, after you've pushed the lane, you like let it push and go worry about other things, but you're gonna have to be more actively involved in that lane and rotating to it to make that headway.
Towers do less damage. I think minions got a health buff or something, health maybe and damage. And then like there's a reaction time to towers now, which I think is the worst part.
Explain the reaction time thing. I'm not too familiar with it.
There is a 0.5 second reaction So, and then they have to turn and face the target. So, like right now, as soon as a minion dies, like its target, and like you're next in line, it'll pretty much start hitting you right away. It'll give you a notification and then start. Right now, or later, it's going to, like, when the minions move into the range, they will not start for half a second, turn the tower, and then start firing. And then after the next one, there's another half-second delay. They have to turn the tower again. So this is actually like... Just from reading it, I might be interpreting it completely wrong. I don't know. Because I haven't played it enough. But it could be, like, if you're like a push hero, like... What's a good one? Maybe
Zagara.
like... I think Zagara might get better, yeah. I think Zool might get better, too.
Ooh. Mixed reaction.
We might see the return of just get as much wave clear as humanly possible and see what happens.
Which is somewhat interesting to me, because like when I was reading the idea behind these changes, they were like, you know, well, we feel these changes would encourage more offensive play. And my immediate reaction was like, knowing that you're always going to have the comfort of moving back towards your towers and knowing that they'd have ammo seems more like a defensive posture than anything else. But you're starting to make a pretty strong argument. Alright, if I'm understanding how you explain this, so a minion wave walks in the towers, 0.5 seconds, it targets one of the minions, has to rotate to them and aim at them or whatever. That minion dies. It takes another 0.5 seconds before the second one gets targeted.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Let me go to the...
Does it make it that it's more accurate as far as like how it's prioritizing and picking targets because it has that additional time? Is that part of it?
Like it's more responsive, meaning like it's more accurate, I guess. Let me find the changes.
I mean, that kind of makes sense because people always complain, right? Like, why am I being hit? You're closer, and there is, you know. So is it like, is this change a byproduct of changing it so that it's more accurate as far as its targeting system?
So it says structures now have a warm-up period of 0.5 seconds before firing and must face their targets completely. So like it's kind of like a minigun, basically. Like it warms up and then gets better. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, you got to turn the computer on, I guess.
Yeah, structure, attack, warning, responsiveness has been significantly improved, which means if the responsiveness of you getting targeted or something getting targeted is new.
Yeah, I definitely think that's going to be one of the things that you just have to like feel. On paper, it seems like that's a larger window to be aggressive, especially if you get a whole minion wave in there. Dunkstick said, I used to be a huge Lauren fan until he sold out and got off the couch. I still have that couch. I still have that whole computer set up and everything over there. I haven't changed.
The changes are nice though. If like if you're gonna lose the lane, you can survive longer. Basically, like if you're playing Dahak against Zagara, Zagara's gonna beat you, but now your towers won't run out of ammo. So then you're just like cut off high and dry. Yeah. Now it's going to be, you can kind of survive for a lot longer. Like if you live, there's a defender's advantage, basically.
That's fair. I do think that matchup with these changes could favor Dahaka more because it's like, well, as long as I clear the wave or soften it up enough, like I'm not going to get absolutely steamrolled. So I can see that. Peng said, my initial instinct is I don't like the ammo changes, but I'm withholding full judgment until I play it.
Wise.
Reasonable thought decision processes? What is this? I blame
esports?
People and heroes are reasonable? No. I don't believe you.
Another big headlining thing that was announced and put on display at BlizzCon, which you can now test at your local variety PTR, the stealth changes.
This is the one that I've heard the most complaining about, actually.
Valeera is actually busted. Like, she's so good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's amazing right now.
Ooh.
I kind of went on an emotional roller coaster and Ping the rage is better. But Because when it first came, when they first announced it, I was like, huh, how's this exactly gonna play? Because I'm always concerned when stealth characters get buffed, because it's just like this weird pub stompy, like, you know, in coordinated play you can kind of counter it, but people like heroes like Valera, like Nova, just being able to like take 40+% of someone's health out of nowhere. Like, if you understand timing, you're gonna have a devastating impact in team fights. But then they were like, well, you know, we're changing the shaders so you can more easily spot them when they're moving around. And I thought that was cool because it's shifting the play style away from having to spot them to it just being a characteristic of the character. Because, like, you see Nova moving around, you know, after these changes, you're like, all right, I see that Nova's there. But if you're gonna like role play, like the whole stealth thing is still there, like for the characters and how they interact with each other. So I thought that was cool, but I think the buffs might be a little too much otherwise.
In terms of like ranking them, I think Valera's at the top, or in terms of like how significant the rework is. Valera and Nova are at the top too. I think Zeratul was really good anyway, so like his changes. I don't know. I said I haven't played it, so I've just watched videos. But he seems really good at 20, not as good early in game.
That's okay. I feel like a Zeratul not as good early game is probably right.
Yeah. I mean, I happen to see Zeratul be played by a Hero Storm player by the name of Glaurung. And he
he's
was
pretty
streaming
good.
some. Yeah, he's pretty
He's alright.
Yeah. He was playing some Zeratul on PTR, and what he was doing with that new heroic, my word. The mechanical outplay potential on that hero now, it was already staggering with Vorpal Blade and things like that. You throw in another ability, another W, another Q, another teleport.
And another Vorpal Blade.
Yeah. it's gonna be crazy. I can't wait to see what people like Glaurung put together with that. But I actually feel like Zeratul, you know, Valera out of the box, I think, like you said, Argy, is gonna be the strongest stealth hero coming out of these changes. But there's something to be said for if you stand still for 1.5 seconds, you were just flat out invisible. I see Zeratul just chilling between mid and top on Dragonshire, and someone having a rough go of it. Just like,
yeah,
I'm trying to rotate, trying to live my life. Oh, wait.
I'd be like, oh, wait a minute. I'm dead.
Because, like, as far as full distance after the engagement, Zeratul has the most range, in my opinion. Like, you just blow somebody up and hits E and he's out. Valera has her little dash and whatnot, but you're still kind of in range. Nova throws the decoy down, no mobility to speak of, and Samurai's...
She can have 2 decoys now.
Oh,
yeah, she has that baseline 1 ability that places, like, it'll put you in stealth and summon a decoy right where you are, and then you can put down another one.
Huh.
Oh no. I'm always against Nova buffs, but that's just because gold. So
hopefully, Bribe is gone. By the way, I haven't looked yet. I hope it's gone. I hope it's gone.
Nova's Bribe did feel a little out of place because it's just like, wait, what? Why is she? it just doesn't like the
just
character.
camping.
The point of her bribe was to like do siege damage.
Was to see? I mean, I get maybe
like she had to do minion kills.
Have a presence in lane, maybe, but I don't know, because you're like, or like use her lack of presence in lane to like reward it with camps. I don't know. I don't know the logic.
I mean, it was neat pulling it off, but it's like, is this actually Nova? What's going on, Magatu, by the way? Yeah, so
Magatu.
I think
Kevin in the chat.
Oh yeah. Full pog champ. Kevin, did you? I didn't see him at BlizzCon. Did you make it out to BlizzCon? I didn't see the Ebros.
He was not there.
No Ebros.
Sadly, he was not.
Feels bad, man. How you gonna do this to us, Kevin? Hey guys. But I mean, in total, I feel like the changes are all going to be a net positive in a big way for how Heroes just plays um, going into next year. I'm wondering if this is going to inspire more of an incentive for Blizzard to try to educate the community. Because as this game becomes, more, I feel like the mechanical skill overall has been more emphasized both in hero design, talent rebuilds, and now with this laning phase, like just actual, setup. What's going on, Yuna? I was playing Artanis the other day. I was making some swaps. I was like, man, best Artanis in A. Come at me, Yuna. Whatever.
Yuna is her Artanis game.
Oh,
is
I
on
don't know.
point.
I don't know. My Artanis game was a little crisp. It was a little crisp when I was playing. I'm just saying.
We're gonna have Artanis 1v1.
Who
You
wins?
love Sonya now?
She says bring
Sonya
it.
or Artanis? Who wins?
I win.
Ooh.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know. I feel like attack heal Sonya probably beats out Artanis at least at level 1. Maybe Shield Surge has a thing or two to
Depends. Maybe Poison Spear has a thing or two to say.
Oh yeah, well, Poison Spear is like full GG at that point.
Mhm.
Mantis asking the real questions. It was good to see you out at BlizzCon. Like most people didn't get to hang out as much as would have preferred.
It's hard
I
to
didn't
see
get to
everybody.
hang out with anyone. Jeez.
Yeah, you were busy, Argy working man, putting on his little
Oh,
suit and
Argy.
tie.
Yeah, they don't make him like that guy anymore. Everyone's out here having a time of their life, and Argy's just diligently working hard. What a guy. What a guy.
How was that whole experience? Was it dreams come true?
It was pretty freaking amazing, to say the least. The first week was really fun because I got to work at the new studio in Burbank,
Ooh.
and that place is so cool. If you don't know, it's the old NBC studio, so like that's where they had the Johnny Carson show, and I think Jay Leno was there.
And now the Argy show.
Yeah, and now I'm there. But the stage was really cool. The lighting that they had for that stage, oh my god, I loved it. Like Dragonshire had red and blue, and then at the very bottom there's that one line of neon with green for the grass, and it just fit perfectly. And then Tomb of the Spider Queen showed little spider webs on the ground moving around.
What?
It was really sweet. Yeah, I don't think you guys ever saw it on screen.
No.
They didn't
But-
show all that.
Yeah, that was one of the really cool things. Like the lighting knocked it out of the park.
The ambiance.
Live events, they're so cool.
I was sad that it wasn't open to the public, but hopefully it will be next year. Every event that they have there.
Yeah, I feel like the Blizzard Arena was kind of open beta phase at the time. So by next year, it'll see an actual release and be ready for public consumption. I would like to be there.
Well, they had Overwatch contenders there like 2 weeks prior, right?
Yeah,
Were people there for that?
yeah, you could buy tickets or like
Wow.
RSVP shop, yeah.
Shows what I know.
But it's in a few weeks, like once the league starts, like it's going to be in like full production mode. So I think that those are right, like the test runs and like the soft launches, and now they're like booting up to go ham.
Go.
Yep.
Mhm.
Going past Burbank, I got to work in a truck behind the arena or the convention center for BlizzCon. That was interesting because I have a pretty big desk, and I had like half that. I had like this much room. I don't know if you can see it, but I had very little room. And
You're a tall guy.
It was cozy.
Big, tall, argy, tiny little desk.
Is that your first time working in like a production truck, kind of like in that style? Are you?
Yeah, it was. But I got used to it pretty quickly. The people that I worked with were pretty amazing as well. Big shout out to Stretch. I don't know. I don't think he's watching. It's not John Stretch, not our guy. But he was working next to me. And
Other Stretch.
Like he was like working graphics, and so like my job was basically I pitched something to the graphics team, they pitched it to the director, and if the director liked it, it went up on screen. So
Fake tweets
Cool.
confirmed.
yeah, I did.
Fake tweet.
I didn't
You did
want
your
it.
own tweet.
I didn't want to tweet at the start. I'm like, that might look bad if I'm working the event and I can just like say, hey, put mine up there. So I asked at the end of the first day, I'm like, can I just tweet? Maybe. They're like, yeah, no one cares. Go ahead. That's how actually most of the production crew knew me, was from my tweets, because I've been on there so many times.
Oh my, see, all right,
all
from
these fake
Argy
tweets
himself.
Like, oh, you're the fake tweet guy.
Fake tweets.
They're like, oh, we heard they don't make them like you anymore, man. And it's always interesting when you get a chance to see the behind the scenes portion of an event like that, because it's like, even in an online capacity, you know, there's a break, you see some Heroes trailers, and then they come back, there's a camera swoop, it's like, hey, this is the HCC, LOL, here's the draft, here's the game. There is so much that goes on behind the scenes. Actually, Egg Breakfast, these are from Bloody Gaming.
Also, hi, Sophist.
In
They're
the
the M660s, right?
I believe so. Very good headset, by the way. Would recommend. How's it going, Sophist? We're just taking that stroll down memory lane, talking about BlizzCon 2017. Quite the experience. I got to chat with Sophist for a little bit. Calm before the storm. Was glad he found some time to say hello. Good to see you, man.
Con Before the Storm seemed lit.
It was. I didn't go the first time that I was at BlizzCon.
Uh-huh.
Like, I was there with my family, and like they didn't really want to go to parties or anything.
Yeah,
so we
they
just,
didn't want to
like,
walk into the Hilton lobby. Yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
But oh god, that Thursday was so much fun. That leads to the jersey. I got it, and I didn't want to wear it because I had like a bunch of stuff on already. So I went to all the Team Frito players, all the Row 20 players, and then like half the Temple players before they left, and got them to sign it.
Nice.
And then freaking Zug, I told him to do it in the purple so you could see it. And then Zugrug did it in the black, and you can barely see it.
Good old Zugrug.
And then on the back, June drew a picture.
Mm-hmm.
What is your picture?
It's a mountain and an axe, because Tempo calls me Mountain Man for some reason. I don't know why.
I would turn around. I want to see this
if you
picture.
break out the Uther
you
cosplay,
can barely see it. I didn't because I was working the entire time. I couldn't actually do anything.
You break out the lumberjack Uther cosplay. Yeah, Mountain Man.
Yeah.
It's the beard, man. It's the beard and the stalwart, resolute personality.
It's a pretty easy cosplay,
They don't make them like this guy.
It is. It's jeans, overalls, and a flannel shirt.
and an axe. You need an axe.
Yeah, I didn't really know how that would fly with like staff.
Yeah, in the Holy Shock build.
I love that build, by the way. Like ever since Tempo broke out the Kerrigan, I've been playing that one Uther build with Hammer, Holy Shock, Cleanse. Like, it's OP.
Oh, I love Bruiser Uther, man. When that came out, I was like, finally I can do it without being criticized when I'm playing games. It's the dream.
Yeah, the best part is like when you're landing against someone, you're like, you just Holy Shock them, like, get away, just go.
Not so much.
Just leave.
Not so much, but yeah, Bruiser Uther came out. Like you said, Kerrigan. When Psalm played Kel'Thuzad and Kerrigan and made it past the group stage, my unranked and Hero League games, Kerrigan was there. Kel'Thuzad there. An immediate impact on the meta. NA. Hey, Crasp, how's it going? See you later, Una. Always a pleasure having you stop by.
Thanks, Una.
What a guy. Hey, Flag, how's it going, man? Writer of HeroesHype. The most lit thing for Con Before the Storm for me was the artwork on that back wall.
I know.
I was like, cool. These are fan creations. Like these look like cells from a feature production.
from like a book, right? When you
Right.
like buy the art
Yeah.
book after. Yeah,
Like,
totally.
Like the art of whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, World of Warcraft. I'm like, that's Malfurion. Like,
yeah, I mean, just the insane amount of quality that went into the artwork. I was just like walking down the whole line, just like mesmerized. People like someone walked up and was like, "Hey, Lauren," I was like, "Hey," like I'm just so focused on looking at all these pictures. I'm like, people really think Genji's cool. Like they got him. They got him in all these dynamic action poses and whatnot. It's like
Yeah.
nice. But overall, guys, you know, BlizzCon's an amazing experience, both in terms of content announcement, esports across all of the Blizzard brands, and then just seeing everybody. We'll start with you, May. What would you say is your favorite moment at BlizzCon this year?
Okay, so I have two. There's like one personal and then like one Heroes hype. My personal one was I waited all weekend to do pin trading. For whatever reason, I was like, went to the community gauntlet and saw the pin trading booth and was like, this is something that I've never done and I want to do it at BlizzCon. And like BlizzCon magic happened and I ended up getting this like really cool collector's edition Alex Straza pin with like glitter and like rhinestones. So that was like for my first BlizzCon ever, it was like a really special memory that like I'm going to remember forever. And then the Heroes Hype TGN party, like standing there and seeing that line of people and being like, oh my gosh, this community is the coolest, most supportive, hypey community ever. Like, I could not believe how many people showed up and like how many people like wanted to celebrate BlizzCon with like us and the community and other people and meet other fans. And I think tacos had something to do with it, but
Very little.
it was really cool because like we had been handing out like cards all like weekend of like, hey, like people sitting behind me in the audience, right? I'd be like, hey, you obviously like Heroes because you're here, like come to our party, and like would give them these little invites to the party. So seeing those people show up and like hang out was really, really cool because it was like people that like aren't necessarily part of our community or the TGN community, and just like getting everybody together who loves Heroes was a really cool memory.
Gotta agree. Man just said bigger room, please. Bigger bar, man. We need some bourbon in there. I
Yeah.
wanted some bourbon and Sprites.
And I couldn't use my card.
TBH.
It was a cash bar only. Like I,
Yeah.
I saw her.
That
I'm
was
taking
a good
notes. I
check for
swear.
sure.
I mean, I'm not blaming anyone. It just kind of was unfortunate.
Bigger and better next year, though, right?
Hey.
Yeah.
Well, Argy, we're gonna shift fire over to you.
Um,
BlizzCon 2017 favorite moment.
I have three.
Go for it.
One
The
up.
first one was when Alex Straza got announced. I was like, "Fuck yes," because I'm sorry if this is a family show, but like a year and a half ago, I had put up a hero concept for Alex on Reddit, and then at dorms this past year, I was talking to Kyle. If you don't know who that is, he designed Kel'Thuzad, or the lead designer for that one, and I talked with him at the HeroesHype party, and he's like, I remember talking to you about Alex at dorm, and like she had already been finished at that point. So
That's a long time. They sat on it for that long. Wow.
well, I don't know
how they do it.
I think the design was done. I don't think the art
Gotcha.
was probably done. So that was a big one for me because Alex is one of my favorite characters in all of Blizzard, and I think she's really fun as well. The second one was also the HeroesHype party, getting to hang out and like just mingle with a bunch of people that I know and I'm friends with, and like meeting a lot of them for the first time, many of them for the second time. One of the weird things for me is like people would come up to me and want to say hi. Like I wasn't used to that at all.
Aww.
So that was really cool. But I guess the big highlight for me was the HGC staff, like all the people that worked on the production. We did that big crew photo in front of the stage or on the stage. Yeah, that was probably my biggest highlight. If you, I guess I can find it on Twitter somewhere or whatever, but I don't even know if it's on there. I might not have posted it on Twitter. I probably can at some point, but like it's just the entire crew, and it just was really fun.
Yeah, I mean that's a
doing that was it was a dream come true, I guess. So
Absolutely. I guess
What about?
in the spirit of fairness, I'll call out some of my most important favorite moments of BlizzCon 2017. For me, one of them was right at the start. Opening ceremony, the video comes on, um, and you really get a true sense of the family that Blizzard has created over the years. The level of passion that people have for Diablo, for Warcraft, for all the Blizzard franchises is insane, and you feel it. You feel these stories that were up there, and throughout it, you see people like Oddish and Gillyweed and Jayhow, and I just thought it was just really poignant for me because at its genesis, Heroes of the Storm is a mashup of all the existing franchises. So in a large sense, the original community is just pieces from other parts of Blizzard. But it really felt like to me in that moment, Heroes had its own identity, which was both a part of existing franchises and communities, but also now its own. And to have that kind of I guess it solidifies Heroes in a way. I'm not sure exactly how to describe it, but there was just something about seeing people in our community up there with people in the other communities just kind of put us all on the same page. I'm not sure. And am I crazy, or is the watching now number
Really high?
That was.
We got rated by Grubby.
Oh God.
Aww.
Hi everyone.
Grubby with the big time host.
Grubby's such a nice guy.
Speaking of Grubby, he was one of my favorite people to work with. I loved working with Grubby. He's so cool.
Why? I need an anecdote, like a Grubby anecdote then. Or like...
Oh, I don't know. Well, like we were working on he always wanted a bunch of stats. He was like the stat guy, I guess, on stage. And he and I would be feeding each other stuff during the day. It was I don't know. He was the most interactive person that I worked with. Wolf was really cool. Thank you very much, Grubby. I'm happy you enjoyed it. Dread and Gilly I've known for a little while now, and they're joys to work with too. Jayhow was cool. Skimmy was the best, actually. Skimmy was so fun.
That was his first BlizzCon, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Thanks for the host, Grubby. That's insane, man. It was a big pleasure to meet you. I got a chance to meet with him after the first day of BlizzCon. My girlfriend and I met up with him at his ASUS meetup thing. It was really cool. I'd never had a chance to really speak with him before, but Grubby always comes across as a very genuine person in his cast and his streams and stuff, and it very much translated to speaking with him in real life. Very humble, nice guy. It was really cool. It was really cool to meet you, Grub.
I always learn so much from him. When you watch his casts and in his casts and in his streams, I definitely learn things, which is so important to have good knowledge out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a mature, actualized individual. That's how I would describe it. But yeah, just so what we were talking about are our favorite moments at BlizzCon, and I was describing it was just cool to see figures in the hero scene in the intro video, along with notable figures from other communities, because I feel like it really brought home the idea that Heroes, in a lot of ways, is its own entity now, under the Blizzard umbrella. And I just think that's a pretty cool hallmark moment. My other favorite moment is definitely more personal in nature. I was talking with some people at Con Before the Storm and felt so inspired to I don't know. I cast stuff in the amateur scene. I got to do Heroes of the Dorm this year, and I love casting. It's a big part of my life these days, being in the Heroes community. So I just felt inspired to write about my feelings on it. I have a personal blog. I just write about different things at different times when the mood strikes me. There's no consistency or whatever. So I wrote this blog post, and I didn't think anyone would really read it. I had like promised myself I'd write a blog post and just like tweet it and not really talk about it too much. And I went to bed after I wrote it, and then woke up and I was like, why does this have like 50 retweets? Like what is this? It just really brought home the idea that people enjoy what I do in the community. I don't really know how else to say it. It was an insanely humbling moment. I cried a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be honest. It was just a cool moment. So I don't know. I'll never forget that moment reading that.
I didn't sleep all of BlizzCon because my house was crazy. So I remember like being up at 4:00 in the morning and be like, "Why is Lauren up at 4 a.m. and tweeting?" And so I read it like seconds after you posted it. I think
I was scared to death to write that.
I mean, it takes like a lot of, it's hard to put yourself out there like that, and I think that's one of the reasons that so many players and people connect with you, Lauren, is because like you're such a genuine like soul, and putting yourself out there like makes other people comfortable to put themselves out there. And I think that's really important, like as a scene in a community, that like there's trust and openness, and that like we put our stories out there so that other people can learn from those stories and grow from those stories. And so I think it's important. And I'm a huge fan of you, so I always think that you deserve like everything.
Thank you. So, those are my two favorite moments. BlizzCon, though, did have the HGC finals. We haven't exactly jumped into the details of all that. It actually took me, I know, I came away from the finals, I was like, I need just like a week or two to like process what I just witnessed. We got the host from Grubby. So all the folks in EU land, I want to throw my take on NA's performance overall. Even my wife will look at the iPad and go, "Oh, Lauren, nice."
Aww.
By the way, HeroesHype Live, we encourage discussion in the chat. We try to catch that and get yourself involved in the conversation. Black's Core's best core. Who's your favorite Korean? Someone said Reset. Reset's pretty good. I don't know if I have I guess Rich.
Rich will always be my
He put that 45 jersey on. Like he hung up the 23 in the rafters. Just comes out of retirement, hits the court
One
strong.
more.
Right. One more. He didn't lose a step at all. So I guess that would be my Temple Storm beat Fnatic in the best of one. Well, that kind of goes to how I've struggled with the idea that perhaps the pocket strategy is dead as a result of the HGC finals. And my reasoning is this. So, Tempo Storm, I said it going into group stages. I said Dignitas, Tempo Storm, they make it out of group stages. I wrote an article over on HeroesHype.com where I put Tempo Storm as the 8th in my power rankings, and a lot of people were like, "Why would you do that?" And I was like, I don't know. I just feel that they're riding a certain momentum. I think they've proved something in themselves. I think they're going to show up. They're going to transform into Super Saiyans. And the way they made it through the group stages was nothing short of just like inspiring. So I was like, yeah, like this is what I'm talking about. So Tempo Storm, they come out swinging. They get the polybomb taunt combination, and I'm like, dude, I almost lost my voice in that
Magic.
best of 3. Like when they were hitting that combination and it was working, and that was exciting to see them.
Synergy.
Right.
Oh.
We fast forward to game 3. First pick Medivh, and I'm like, okay, Medivh obviously has a bag of tricks, has a huge impact at the competitive level. And then Tempo Storm rounds out their draft at the very end with Kerrigan.
Not like this.
And I was like, I get it. You have a ace in a hole strategy. You have this specific play style in mind, but if you look over on the other side, They got Medivh. Like
Medivh cheats.
they have
have
a
the
response
counter.
to burst damage.
Yeah.
So you need to call the audible. Tempo Storm doesn't. They watch the rest of the BlizzCon with us. Then we jump over to Roll20. Roll20, Glaurung stepped out on that stage. He looked, in a word, Artie May, pissed. Like, did you see his face when he came out on the stage?
He was about
ready.
to light things up.
Yeah, he was ready. He goes over there, he shakes the hand firmly. I'm like, all right, you know, this is not the Glaurung I'm used to seeing. Like, he came out here ready to play. Goes into the draft. They rifle through their picks. They don't waste any moment. So it's just like, they just knew. They just knew what heroes they were going for. They had a strategy. They win game 1, people go crazy. The game 2 strategy of a Falstad Diva, it showed potential. They dropped that game. Third game, Towers of Doom. Okay. We see the early...
Can we not talk about this game?
We see the early Dahaka pick, an astute combination or hero to select on that battleground. Sure. Mm. And then Zeratul showed up in the 3-4, if memory serves. I think so. Yes. I think so. Yeah. I know for a fact that Zeratul and Dahaka were already selected.
I think
before
Vikings was
they last picked them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Zeratul was the 4-5 for Bull 6.
And I was like, the moment the Vikings locked in, I looked to my immediate left and I looked to my immediate right, and it was just like, huh? I mean,
people got hyped about it, but it didn't work. It wasn't going to work.
And that game proceeded to go exactly how
everyone thought it might. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this, guys. I've never seen in an HGC game there be a hero death before the casters are done announcing the name. Eric died at like 22 seconds into the game.
Yeah.
It was insane.
I don't know if Dahaka was picked early. Was he first picked?
I think he was in the 1, 2, or 3.
Well, I remember Roll20 banned Abathur.
Mm-hmm.
The second ban. And looking back, I guess in hindsight, if you're going to go Vikings, if Dahaka had not been picked, why would you ban Abathur and not Dahaka? Or Zeratul in that case. If Dahaka had been picked. Like that's what, like looking back, that's the big question mark for me. Like Vikings could have worked fine if Zeratul wasn't there and it was Abathur, or if it was Zeratul Abathur instead. I don't know.
Sound reasoning. In Arky, I am apt to agree. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Laval said I would have loved to hear why they thought that was a good idea. And I on paper, you took the Vikings into a world-class Zeratul in Dak.
SCSC's Zeratul is actually crazy scary, by the way. It is pure Monka-S in every sense of the word.
Oh, Saffron gives us some insights. Says Roll20 coach was on Nexus Trolls podcast last night and said that there was a strategy going into the final game. They thought they could outplay with the practice they had with that draft, but obviously it did not go that way. And Saffron, I feel like that's the perfect explanation for why I feel that the pocket strategy may very well be dead. Maybe not dead, but it's just like you can't go into a draft saying like, no matter what, we're doing this.
Until they go best of one format, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can, like, I see the window for getting away with it in a best of 3. It's like if you surprise enemy game on some weird comp, you have the upper hand. If you beat them straight up after that, then you're through the set. But if you're gonna take Vikings at the end of the draft, at least look to see if one of the most dangerous Zeratul and Dahakas are on the other side. Just take a glance. That's all I'm saying.
Or, game 3 at BlizzCon is like a scary time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's when you do the pocket strap because you feel comfortable with it. But I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's like the trusty and not flashy, slow and steady wins the race, right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Kyle
it's just
said,
different.
wait, I want to be in on this call so badly right now. This is Heroes Hype Live. Good sir.
You want to call in?
Hey, Lauren, I think there's one problem. To be on this podcast, you have to watch Die Hard.
That's why we don't make them like. That's why I don't make them like that anymore. I was thinking the exact same thing. Argy. I was thinking the exact same thing. Kyle, if you've seen Die Hard, come on down. But if you haven't, well.
We're going to have to watch it as like a Heroes Hype family one night during the holiday season. We'll all get on, we'll queue it up, and we'll watch Die Hard together.
Yeah, it was just, I don't mean to knock or criticize the players at all. I mean, to compete on the world stage is a commendable and respectful act. They're better players than I am. They commit the time and effort. They got to press the buttons. They got to make the decisions. We just talk about them during and after the fact, sure. But as someone that lives in NA and is a strong proponent of NA, showing that they have viability as a region internationally, I actually feel like if Tempo Storm and Roll20 just played straight up, they would have had a better shot at winning than if they went off the rails with like Vikings and the Dahaka Zeratul. Because our mechanical ability, the gap continues to narrow each time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We get more wins anytime, more and more, as we play these like international and cross-region events. And, the two teams that we just talked about, Tempo Storm and Roll20, look fierce coming out. So... roster swaps, so like it's a bright horizon. The death to NA low.
I feel like NA as a whole proved our potential. I just think our focus got a little too narrow in some of the draft decisions. Kala says, and it's Tuesday, my dudes. Pocket strategies like our Kerrigan comps, Roll20. Towers of Doom comp, you can only run them if your opponents have absolutely no idea what you're looking at. When Fnatic first picked Medivh, we should have immediately respected that and drafted something standard or something that works well against what they were looking to run. Instead, we stuck with our guns, and that's the kryptonite of any predetermined draft. Pocket strats have to have adaptability, and unfortunately, they rarely do. Very insightful. That's why this guy, I miss you, Cal. What a sharp guy.
Yeah.
I would agree 100%. I feel like there's potential leeway given what the enemy has selected. On paper, going back to the Dragonshire game in the group stages, there were a lot of people that were immediately concerned about the composition when Kerrigan showed up. Because it was like, wait, what, Malfurion's your ranged assassin? Like, how does that work? But there wasn't like a hard counter like a Medivh on the other side, so it just comes down to raw, gutsy execution. When you're going up against someone pressing the W key whenever you engage, I don't know if you're going to really be able to play around all that. So, yeah.
Protected, by the way.
Or also, if you do start to get some damage in after that, Portal, by the way, and we're just going.
Portal's good.
So, I don't know. I teeter on the fence about whether or not the pocket strategy is dead. I feel like it's largely contingent on what the enemy team has just been taking by chance. And you have to go into a pocket strategy being ready to have the escape hatch, to have the audible. Alec Trick Av says last pick Vikings was an inside job. There's a pick on Reddit where it showed the Vikings pick was a random. I can't believe that. That was a random pick.
It happened so much, but I don't think it was.
As much as they were drilling in those hero picks all set, I would be truly baffled.
For the website thing, I think it's just the website having a problem. It was actually picked. Vikings was actually picked, by the way.
Oh,
It was not random.
I didn't realize that the website had that. Interesting.
Yeah, they now have like every game is immediately, or not quite immediately, but very quickly uploaded to the website, and we'll have all the stats for it. So like all hero damage, siege damage, and then all the talent picks as well. So, like people were saying that the Butcher was random too when MVP Black played it, but no, they picked that.
Take off your tinfoil hat, folks.
Dude, Butcher has a counter to Sonya? I believe, man. That was a rough go of it for Sonya. That game.
It was.
Brand Flake says, pretty sure they admitted to we had a strat in mind and just stuck to it despite counters. And I can respect that. I totally get it.
That they admitted that to like the Zeratul pick. They picked that into Zeratul and Dahaka. Those are the counters to Vikings. It wasn't that doesn't mean it was random.
I just know Ballistics looked around and they were just like, it's feeling like Christmas already.
We're hungry.
But another big story there in HGC finals. I mean, I guess some of it's changed now that we know what the roster is going to be looking like going into next year. I did not expect Dignitas to fall to Team Expert in a best of 3.
Yeah, that was well. I was thinking Expert could do it, but not 2-0. It would have gone. I think it would have gone to 3 normally, but that Towers game was really well played.
Yeah, I think that it felt like Dig was too confident going in a little bit. And I think that they play better off the back foot traditionally. And like every time we've seen them, like when they come in as the underdog, that's when they win events. So yeah, they didn't seem as diggy in that series as I think I've seen them before, and it just wasn't as clean as I've seen it before, or like as patient or capitalizing on mistakes. I think that Dig has been like really good at doing in the past.
Caldor stopping in. What's going on, man? Freaking bike riding machine out here. Said you have to see the other side. Ballistics new Roll20 would try to cheese, so their Zeratul picked the counter that was more impressive. I gotta agree. I mean, you take the Dahaka early on Towers of Doom, you're gonna get value no matter what you're facing. Being able to soak at that potential tier advantage, burrow around, have the global presence. You want a thing like that. Zeratul gets picked up, so it's like whatever shenanigans you're thinking about. If you're looking to have any kind of isolation, split soaking, we just so happen to have one of the best Zeratul players on this planet. So good luck with that. I just, by the way, behind the scene info. I mean, when you go into Falstad Diva Garage playing Bomberman, throwing the Diva bomb around in game 2, you're just like, we gotta expect the unexpected with these guys. Blauron came out here with a Diva jacket on.
Yeah.
So I was 100% certain they were expecting a curveball. Oh, they called the Lost Vikings the Foresight.
Oh, it was a strat. I mean, it makes sense that it was a strat and they'd practice it against certain teams and.
I don't know Korean, but I would have loved to hear the voice comms going into that draft because they're like, I wish they would take the Vikings against us. They
yeah, like you're
dare,
almost
right?
spading it, right?
Like they're all looking at each other like they're not gonna do that, right? They're not gonna take Vikings. They wouldn't dare. And then you see here, like, where will we end up this time? Oh man, rip Roll20.
But yeah, it's good to see that side that it's like it very much is an outplay by Korea, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember that I actually have a draft sheet of the actual draft of that game. So Ballistics was first pick, and they went Muradin, then a Task Tracer for Roll20, and then Greyman Karazim. And then that's when Abathur got banned.
The second ban, okay.
Then Medivh got banned because Glau. And then Stitches Dukov gets picked. And the 4/5 is Dahak as Zeratul. So they knew, yeah, as Haldor said, they knew it was coming. So it was perfect.
I mean, that is a Texas Hold'em poker at its finest. It's just like all in. Zeratul Dahak, what you gonna do?
And that kind of brings up like an interesting like sub thing is like coaches on stage like for heroes and being able to like contribute to that draft conversation, like kind of, you know, like in other, like in League, right, the coaches are on stage and they're very much involved in that sort of in the draft decision. So do you think that we'll see that with HOTS eventually? Like, is this another sort of, I don't know, tally mark and like we should have that to have this more dynamic things than just the players being on stage?
Well, I know at past LAN events there's been something of a struggle to get the coach more actively involved during the proceedings. The coaches were able to stand out there this go round, and I feel like the quality of the game benefited from that. I think if Blizzard wants to continue to foster Heroes esports, and we all know that they do, having that outside perspective, having someone that's specifically meant to understand the strengths and weaknesses of their own team, and take some of that kind of pressure off the team, all the better. All the better. Yeah. Yeah, Calder. I definitely saw Kala and folks, coaches being actively involved.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know about during the game. I don't think they're there.
Not during the game. No. Like during draft. Yeah. Yeah.
So, Caldor, a question for you since you're here. I'm not sure when you came in, but I feel like, in general, the North America region in this past HGC finals closed the gap quite a bit in terms of raw mechanical skills. I wouldn't say that we're there yet, but NA beat themselves more by strategy in terms of these pocket strat, you know, just locking in these all-in win or lose kind of strategies. If NA just played more straight up, I think they would have fared better. Would you feel like that's a fair assessment? I'm curious to hear what his thoughts on that. Yeah, I don't remember if Noblesse was out there or not. I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Dignitas, like you were saying, May, it definitely seemed like, I don't want to say that they had lost tenacity, but they just didn't seem as enthused about it. Even last year, it just didn't seem like, compared to last year, that they didn't necessarily have
the spirit.
The spirit's a good word for it. Yeah. Calder says, tough question for a chat, to be honest. I think NA's performance got overhyped. NA proved that they're not a minor region. That's it. Tempest was very weak. Most people thought they'd probably fall. NA always had potential. That's not the problem. It's getting the results. That's the issue.
Yeah, that's fair. I think consistency, right? And like player consistency and taking the experiences that they learned at international events and really like applying it when they meet up again.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Lol Embed says, what would you guys say the problem is as far as NA? Historically, I would have to say maturity. It just seems like regions like EU, like Korea, like China, they take practicing, scrimming, evolving their game a heck of a lot more seriously than teams in the past had expressed. Like when you hear some of the behind the scenes stuff, like it seemed like this time a year ago, NA teams were scrimming and it was just kind of like they're just doing it to say that they're doing it. They're not, maybe they're working on stuff, maybe they're, you know, they're not playing like it's BlizzCon Game 5. And I feel like other regions are. So when there are these high pressure situations, they're not able to show up like that. But it seems like overall, the mindset of the region's starting to change. Again, I'm not seeing the behind the scenes stuff at the pro level like that, but that's my hope.
Yeah. And you kind of, the pros, I think, will kind of like allude to this kind of stuff too. Like, they all say they don't play Hero League, but even in their own heads, there's a little bit like of a Hero League competition. And it's not just scrims, right? It's also like how much time they're spending, like looking at drafts, looking at their own play, like watching replays, spending time with their team to like build that camaraderie and make sure that they all have like synergy. But then like Hero League is a part of that. Like how many raw hours are you spending on the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also like you said, like with the maturity side of it, there's all the other things like branding and marketing. And there is a real correlation between players that advertise themselves well, and then like once you get on a stable team and you're in a stable org, like you have more resources, you can spend more time playing the game and only focusing on heroes because you don't have to worry about other things like a job or doing coaching for money and things like that. So yeah, maturity.
Law and Best, team composition, ego. I definitely think ego at the very least had a part to play in it. Perhaps not so much these days. Manimus says, if you have to rely on pocket stress no matter what, then you're scared, somewhat already lost in their minds. And that's a really interesting point. I'd have to agree with that. I feel like by its very nature, having a pocket strategy in this situation, NA going into the group stages and into the finals at BlizzCon proper, it's like we're trying to go around you rather than through you. And if you go into a best of 3 with that kind of mindset, I agree. I feel like there is some kind of, at least a subconscious level, just saying like, I don't think we can beat them straight up, so we got to come up with something fancy. So yeah, I feel like if NA just played it straight up, they'd have done better. Since there are only a couple of the top NA teams, do you think scrims come into play?
Yeah, I mean, so scrims usually are different. I don't know if anyone plays like amateur HOTS versus like pro HGC. Like HGC scrims are usually like 3 hours, and there's usually like scrim partners that you have. But there is within HGC there is definitely like a scrim hierarchy, and so like teams like EID last season had a lot of problems getting scrims with like higher teams. So there definitely is that. And that probably does have something to do with competition, right? Like when there's not as much competition pushing you to be the best all the time, you rest on your laurels if you don't have somebody like pushing you all the time. Yeah. And it also, you don't grow, right? If the level of play is stagnant, then it doesn't, push you to be a better player. So
yeah. Like a lot of things in life, if you want to improve at something, like see what someone better than you is doing. I remember EU went down and scrimmed Korea last year and got rocked. And they were like, that's good. Like, we want to see the difference and disparity between our regions so we know what we can work on. I don't think anyone from NA went over specifically to Korea to practice. I think logistically that'd be tough. It's like, oh, I live in California. I'm going to fly down to Korea for a little while and then come back to Anaheim. I don't know if Heroes Esports is there yet as far as financial expenditures.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is also like the organization sponsors helps pay for that too.
Yeah.
Well, like we have Gold League coming up, so that's like a.
Yeah, you think of the flight and housing and stuff. That's going to be a tall task. Mm-hmm. NA's best chance to beat EU is now GCWC because it'll be chaotic. Next World Championship, I don't see it. With new teams and improved attitude that I believe exists now, I can see it happen at BlizzCon, for example. Yeah, I really feel like with the shifting mindset and the new rosters, NA has a pretty good shot. Alex Trikav said, everyone in Calnor, what do you think of the visa issues that happened with the Chinese teams? This is something we haven't talked about. What do you think the esports community, Blizzard and all, can do to promote esports worldwide so things like this doesn't happen? I think that's a very complex issue. I think it had a huge impact on the overall journey of BlizzCon. I think the results would have stayed the same at the end as far as who won, who made it to the finals and things like that. But like one of the Chinese teams had 3 subs. Like
Yeah.
when the team that made it to BlizzCon are in the minority of the roster, they're not gonna do that. Like that's just not gonna work. Um, but at the same,
Time, I think, is how you fix it, right? Is having more time to procure or get those documents in place. And
yeah,
Hmm.
I as much as I feel like Blizzard might, I don't know how visas work, especially in China. Um, but I feel like there's probably something Blizzard can do, but they're not going to be able to do it on their own. If you're a top level China player and you're playing for BlizzCon, I feel like you should be filing paperwork
I
way
mean,
ahead of time.
okay,
To the
so there's
extent that you can. I don't know how that process works.
players are notoriously irresponsible. Okay, we have June who like tries to smuggle ramen on board. Okay, like
Mm,
they're notoriously irresponsible, and Blizzard does handle some of it, I believe. Like I think that a lot of it has to go through Blizzard,
Yeah.
if only because like trawling through the Blizzard careers board, there's like a travel and visa position open right now. So if you know anything about travel and visas and you want to work at Blizzard, you should go and fill that application out. But I mean, yeah, and I think that to not get in like a really serious conversation, like the global political climate right now, I think definitely contributes to those types of
yeah.
things.
I think basically Blizzard is doing as much as humanly possible to try and get them all here,
Yeah.
and it's more the U.S. government maybe that's causing it to happen, and not Blizzard or China. At least
Yeah.
it's Chinese teams. I think it's like it's just a political thing.
It's paperwork,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know how you untangle that problem. Um, Greater powers than esports are at play when it comes to all
Teleportation.
that.
I don't know.
Long Best said apologies for shifting the spotlight, but Cal all, who do you feel sits best position within the EU now with the roster changes? And Long Bed, like this is Heroes Hype Live. Like it's a very organic discussion. We go in with a a set thing.
We
we'd
just
like to
haven't
talk
gotten
about,
to
but it
the
just
roster changes yet.
right. And we can shift there.
Yeah.
Caldor says top 2 in Korea was too strong for a toe-to-toe battle. Strategy to go for pocket strats was perfect. Since it was a best of 3, that format actually gave NA the best chance possibly make it through round of 8.
Mhm.
I can see that.
Yep.
Definitely. I just wouldn't take Vikings in the Donka's Air Tour. And if Caldor is ever interested in joining us for Heroes Hype Live, no qualms here. Hey. But yeah, the roster changes are big.
Mhm.
They are more deep and fundamental than I thought they would be. I thought EU would largely stay the same.
Mhm.
No, not even close.
I did.
Boy,
I
was I
knew.
wrong.
I thought Dig was gonna have changes. That's when I definitely thought. Fnatic
Caldor said
was
you can jump in for
surprising.
EU changes if you want. Hey, whisper me your Skype handle. We can get you in here. Who better to talk to?
Than the man himself.
With that in mind, we can talk about the NA changes first and give Caldor time to jump in if he's so interested and inclined. More than welcome. The NA changes. Tempo Storm is going to be a beast.
Yeah. It's exciting.
I'm curious to see how they play out.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm completely biased towards Tempo. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I think one huge thing for them is that they lived together. I mean, they'll practice and live, like it'll be separate, but like Cattle and Glau living together and then Fan and June living together, I think helps them.
Sure.
The thing that people bring up about them the most is like the egos clashing.
Mhm.
Like everyone has their own way of thinking and it won't work. I believe that Kala is very good at getting a team in one direction,
Mhm.
and like mentally, more so than like just
Physically.
in-game playing. Mentally, emotionally, I guess. Like everyone is on the same page, and he does a very good job of that. So I think that's one huge benefit for them having a coach in Kala.
They have a manager now. They brought in a manager too to like,
Yep.
because and they do. They have a lot of that team is busy, right? Psalm streams. They do boot camps. They did that that Red Bull thing before. You see them all as a team together, and it's something that is similar to like EU teams, right? And then also like to Korean teams and Chinese teams where they like live together and they are able to build that synergy with each other. So,
Yeah,
I agree.
That's an interesting angle to. Oh, you said? Am I crazy? I'm listening?
It's definitely it's always hard to see players that you like love and watch and support leave a team, right? Like I'm such a fan of Fury. He's such a sweet, genuine, like loves Heroes guy, and so it's hard to see that. But teams have to make changes. Like after it doesn't work for a long enough time, you gotta change it up in order to make something happen and see if you can get farther.
We're trying to add Mr. EU himself to the call at the moment. I think it's...
Hey.
Oh,
Hello.
Hi.
Thomas Killian Caldor himself, man. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it, man. Thanks for jumping in for the discussion.
No problem.
How are
I've been
you?
listening a while. Pretty good. Just getting ready for China.
Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna be heading off pretty soon.
Yeah, I think Thursday.
So we were talking a little bit about the NA changes, but I'm really curious to hear your insight on how EU's looking. Who
EU is pretty interesting right now. I heard that you guys talked earlier a bit about how most people didn't expect this many changes to happen, and that most teams would stay the same. Now, it was pretty clear that there were a couple of changes happening even before the top two announced what they were going to do, just simply because Liquid did not perform the way that they wanted to in the second part. So it was already more or less a given that Liquid would change out a couple of players. The question was just how many and who, and that would then also affect the other teams. So one of the problems that you always have is that even when we end the season, we know the teams that go to BlizzCon. So they stay the same, they practice, but everybody else has a massive break. So during that break, they can now start tryouts. They can just because they don't have to actually scrim anymore. So
Right.
you just start thinking about, okay, who do we need to make changes? Were we okay with what we achieved so far? And if we do changes, who are the potential tryouts that we have? But none of the teams will still make any kind of commitments before the biggest tournament of the year is over. Because you know that if there are going to be changes, they are going to affect everything. For example, if only one of the top 2 or top 3 teams, let's say Fnatic, decides, hey, we're going to make changes, you have all of a sudden, they can approach every single team. If you're the number 1 or number 2 spot within the rankings, you can go to any other team within the league and just simply say, listen, we want you. And nobody's going to be crazy enough to say, like, no, I don't want to play for you guys. So that's going to affect a lot. And of course, the people that are going to be let go from the top teams will most likely also have the chance to go to whatever team they decide to go to or have a lot of offers. So nobody will commit before the big tournament happens. Fnatic and Dick were already thinking last year of making potential changes. Like it's basically always a discussion. There's always a little bit of discussion every now and then. Sometimes it's serious, sometimes it isn't. But a lot of the stuff that happened this time, or at least a few things, were already discussed last year. But stability was really important, the new system with HTC as well. So when they then decided to make these changes, then it just had that effect. And the reason why it also happened is that Quacknix wrote a really good tweet longer where he explained a little bit that it's not simply because a team says, hey, let's take Fnatic coming in second place. We didn't achieve number 1 2 years in a row. So we need to make a change to hit that spot. And we now replace, for example, Wooby with Bad Benny because we say Bad Benny is the better solo laner. That's not how they think. It's more a question of do we find a team where we feel that as a unit we can work better? And that's even more important. And Quacknix actually wrote a lot about this because a lot of people, when they saw the changes, said, hey, this is actually a downgrade. But there's so many additional things that just fit into the narrative and not only the skill. From a raw talent perspective, for example, I would say that Dignitas right now has probably the best roster. But at the same time, that's not the whole story. So if you look at motivation and drive, then I would give Fnatic an edge over Dignitas. So the two teams are going to be extremely interesting to watch. GCWC is going to be a little bit chaotic because it's still new. Xelia is switching over into the support role, especially Dignitas has a lot of things where they have to adjust, I feel, more than Fnatic, whereas with Fnatic it's more the team synergy that they're building right now. But coming into... Well, I really think we're going to see the real strength of the new rosters is after part 1, phase 1, because that's when routine sets in. So right now we're having honeymoon phase. Everybody is hyped, everybody is motivated. It's like, oh my God, we're gonna, first of all, you have a little bit of rivalry going on. The former Fnatic players are gonna, that are, Wubi, for example, is gonna do his best to show when they play against Fnatic that he's able to beat them. We'll say have the same on the side of Fnatic. So there's like a lot of motivation going in the first phase of part 1. And after that, routine starts to settle in a little bit. And all of a sudden, it's all a question of how do we deal with the monotony of playing every single week and of having to scrim without having that extra bit of drive. So that's what I would expect within the top 4 in Europe. We're going to see a pretty epic battle happening.
Very insightful. And yeah, if you guys have not seen or read the twit longer from Quacknix, I think it was very insightful and really broke through the surface of the changes. Because you see the roster changes, Fnatic just finished 2nd place, and you're like, oh, are they, is it like a roster apocalypse type of situation that NA has done in the past? No. It seems like overall the changes from EU are a much more measured and nuanced approach to evolving all of the teams. And I really like the idea that they're prioritizing 5-player synergy over the individual skill of each player.
I can actually say something to that. For example, because people are always afraid of the change. They're always afraid of the roster apocalypse. They always think, oh my God, can they not simply stick with that lineup and grow as a unit? But sometimes it's just... These 5 guys play together for like a year or longer, and sometimes there's just certain fatigue. There's certain things that happen. A player might have a different approach to how the game should be played, how you should draft, how you should shot call in the game, and you can push past that for a certain amount. But at some point, it might just add up to something where you feel little ripples, and something that you just can't get past. And for example, honeymoon phase is always an issue. So we acknowledge that completely. But right now, when I'm in the scrims of, let's say, Fnatic, for example, they have a scrim block, they finish their scrim block, and then they have a 1.5 hour break. And in that 1.5 hour break, they get food, but you can literally, after the game, the last game is done of the first part, they sit there and they're like, screw it, I don't want to have that break right now. I want to play the next game. And they just talk for like 30 minutes about the games that they just played and basically cut their little break that they have to get food and everything short. So they're like super motivated. And this is also because the people that they have in that lineup right now are all extremely driven. And other new teams is pretty much the same. So if you have a team that has that passion, you can, for example, overcome maybe a little bit of a skill gap to another team. Because as I said, from a pure skill perspective, if I would rate every single player on the roster of Fnatic and Dignitas on a scale of 1 to 10 and would then add those numbers up, I'm pretty sure that I would arrive with a higher number for Dignitas. The question is, can the synergy that Fnatic, I believe, has, where they have, in my opinion, a bit of an advantage, and that drive that is behind it, can that overcome that gap, and how will Dignitas then, in the end, perform when routine kicks in? And to me, that story alone, disregarding all the other 6 teams, that story alone is going to make 2018 just insanely cool to watch.
Mm-hmm. I gotta agree, man. Like when Fnatic and Dignitas go up against each other, that's gonna feel like the Super Bowl. You may not be too familiar with that. I don't know.
I'm watching the Super Bowl every year, so yeah, I know. I played American football for a while.
Did you?
Yeah.
This guy does it
Interesting.
all. This guy does it all. What position did you play?
Basically, running back.
See? Headlong charging in the battle. That's Caldor for you.
No fear.
Was
Now-
fun.
Caldor, I want to ask you a question. I'm not looking to name any specific teams or anything, but this is something that I've been personally curious about in light of these roster changes. $1 million prize pool on the line for 2017 HGC finals. In the finals itself, it's like you're playing for best of 5 for $500,000. That's insane. Big dollars we're talking about here. But some of these teams, I feel like they went into the HGC finals, even at the group stages, knowing that it was in some ways the end for those 5-man rosters as they existed. Do you think having that in mind affects performance playing on the world stage?
It probably does to an extent, but that's also where you have to prove that you're a professional. I would love if we could change. I feel like in the future, some of the rules that we have when you can change players, how players are going to be changed, I would love if they would adjust over time, and I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. I mean, this was the first year of our league play of HGC, because the rules that exist alone made it already more or less impossible for the teams to talk about changes within the teams after the tournament. At least the teams that were there. Everybody else, of course, had that break that they could walk through. But if you're a team that qualified for BlizzCon, then you more or less had to already go through at least a few motions and like thought experiments to kind of know what's going to happen when the tournament's over, no matter how you finish. So I think, I know that it was on some players' minds. Some teams were completely oblivious that certain players would leave. Others already talked basically everything through. I think it might have affected some performance, but at the same time, that's where you have to show that you're a professional. I mean, I did comparative sports for nearly all my life, and the one thing that I have to say is if I'm in a competition and I know this is my last chance with that team to reach the top, I myself would even work harder and not less because I know it ends. Just because I can end it on a high note. But that's a personal thing then. Everybody's going to have a different answer to that question.
Yeah, so I'm not the problem. Hey, look, I wasn't the problem, right? You want to go out on top and say like, hey, they made this choice, but I'm still an asset for a team, and these are my skills, and this is my skill set, and it's like you're advertising for yourself at that point.
Yeah, because I immediately think back to mid-season brawl. Roll20 went into that knowing that there was going to be a roster change, and they still performed very well, admirably, all things considered. So I definitely agree with the idea. It's just like Madamo says, like even if they're professionals, it's still a rough situation. Now that we've seen the extent of the roster changes, it was just something that I was personally curious about because it's like this is the last chapter of this roster. I'm sure a lot of these teams felt. So it's like, how do you walk into that? It's just interesting to me.
We have not all of the rosters yet announced in Europe, and I mean, I love to tease the entire time. There's not really much to tease anymore, but there's still a couple of changes coming that probably, I mean, some people probably expect, but a lot of people will be quite surprised by them.
Yeah, like we don't know where Shrumpy's going yet, officially.
Nah, like actual surprises.
Yeah, I want to know is where like Arcana apparently is on a team. I'd like to know where he is.
That, for example, but more than that.
Well,
I mean,
AVRD to me was leaving Expert was a surprise.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That was up on the list for me. He was like the mad scientist behind a lot of their drafts and strategies. So they took the brain of the operation in some ways out of there. Curious to see how that plays out.
Also, one thing, I've seen that in the threads, and I can put that to rest right here, at least for the people that are listening. When it comes to Fnatic, a lot of people have immediately jumped to the idea that it is a massive problem, or at least a negative aspect, that they are not 5 Swedes anymore. That it's 4 Swedes and the French guy, so they can't talk in Swedish any longer. And when I listen to, or when I watch scrims, I occasionally also listen to comms. And I can just, if we have some Fnatic fans watching on an NA podcast, I can put those worries to rest. Like, there is absolutely zero issue whatsoever with them speaking English over Swedish. Like, like communication is in no way an issue.
That is definitely a comfort. It was a concern that I had. It's not something that us as folks in NA initially think about because, NA teams largely speak English.
Maybe it is a problem for some. Like, there are teams in Europe or players whose English is not on the level where they are comfortable being in a team that solely speaks English, or where they have to adjust. But in their case, it's not a problem. But there are definitely European teams where that specific thing is an issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely an added layer.
And there's not like the support within HOTS, like, with other games where there isn't roster locks, right? It's open. You definitely see a lot of that happening, and it works out. They have to get translators and all that, but usually you can have some communication within the game that works.
Linguistics are an important part of it. Mr. Dragonis said, I imagine Fnatic talking entirely in memes over comms. I can see that.
He's not far from the truth. Like, the
Drinking
amount of
monsters.
memeing is definitely pretty big. And the monster memes in particular, especially, like, I don't think there was anything that Mena was so excited about when he joined Fnatic than getting free monsters all the time. Like,
perks.
it's actually, it's at this point, it's just a running gag.
He just has to sell out like Quacknix and the rest of them do.
Done.
I don't think he's really comfortable enough with his English that he wants to be in the post-game interview. But if he was, I am pretty sure he would go full sellout.
He's going to be wearing like sunglasses that have the monster logo in the lenses and whatnot. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it personally. Shifting gears away from some of the HGC speculation from a roster standpoint, Caldor, I wanted to ask you, I know you're super busy. You're getting ready to fly over to China. But my question for you is, have you had a chance to try out some of the laning changes that are on the PTR? And if so, any initial first impressions on how that could affect competitive play?
So I don't play PTR when there's a tournament ahead. Just simply because you have the tournament patch, you have the live patch, which is usually different from the tournament patch.
Right.
And then you have also the PTR. So if you jump across 3 patches, you're bound to be confused. And at some point, you're going to say a dumb thing in the cast, mess up a cooldown, or talk about a potential talent pick that doesn't exist anymore. And then everybody is going to be on your ass immediately. So I usually try to limit the patches between I jump to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't play PTR, but I watched some of the games. I talked to some of the players as well, and there was also, we had not even last. There was they asked players directly about feedback, and so we gave them a couple of things to consider. The changes are going to be super interesting. It has going to be a different approach. The lanes should actually matter a little bit more now, since with the globe change, you can just win it outright. There's a couple of things where, when we discussed with the developers the changes and how they could impact, where we made a few suggestions. For example, I personally am a fan of saying that when one of these globes turns neutral, that if you picking up as the enemy team, you get a diminished return, so that you don't get a double globe if you control the entire lane, but you get, let's say, 1.5. I'm not even so much concerned about the health. I'm more so concerned about the mana that you get, because I feel with certain heroes, you can just like siege up 6 days to Sunday on that lane if you control the lane and just destroy everything, because you never run out of mana and you just spam spells. How that comes into effect, we have to see. It's something they can adjust pretty easily, I would assume. So that's not a thing. In general, I like the way they go with this. I love that they finally zoom out. It's one of the early alpha feedbacks that we gave them, so I think that's absolutely fantastic. I like that they reverted the changes to the mercenary camps that they introduced after alpha, so that's great. I think a few of the mercenary camps might have to be tweaked a little bit. For example, I think that the night camp with the spell armor is still a bit strong, especially since the only way how you can actually deal with it is you have to take out the mage. The problem is, how do you do that if the opponent sieges up with a camp? You kind of try to poke with spells at it. Guess what? The thing has spell armor now. So if the healer just starts up healing that mage, then you have an issue. In one of the scrim tests that I saw for that, the theory was, for example, what happens if I actually achieve a double night camp on a lane? Let's say I'm on Dragonshire and I push for keep and I get a double night camp in. Now all of a sudden I have two of those mages. That aura doesn't stack, but you have two factors that you can heal, so it's even tougher to get rid of it. And that double night camp with a push ended the game immediately. They went through the keep like it was butter and straight for the core. So that's something that might be a concern. If it is, you can always either change the aura that the mage gives, you can reduce the effect a little bit. So as it is a pretty massive change, some of these things will have to be adjusted. But overall, I think the direction that they're going with this is great. I like it.
Very insightful. I hadn't even considered a double night camp gambit. Yeah, that spell armor and keeping the wizards alive, that's going to be a whole handful.
It's pretty rough. Like, again, the change that I'm most excited about, and I didn't really make that a secret, I think, is the matchmaking system.
Yes.
So I'm extremely hyped for that, and I think that will have a pretty big effect, because my biggest problem is, or was, with Heroes for the longest time, is that ranked mode Hero League is not what it's supposed to be. Right now, it's, by a lot of people, just treated as an extension of the Quick Match Clown Fiesta that we have. And it's in the Grandmaster ranking, for example, is in no way representative of who are the best players. It's just basically a grind fiesta. The best players usually don't have as much, like that. Don't get me wrong. It will still have a lot of the best players in it, but the fact alone that you have in every region several pro players that play 200 games in it because they can't play more because they scrim on a daily basis a lot of hours, that don't make it into Grandmaster is, in my opinion, pretty laughable. And just shows, I mean, some of these guys in the last season have been just barely masters or were in Diamond 1 because of it. So what you end up with is a Grandmaster ranking that, in my personal opinion, doesn't really reflect the best players in the game. It still reflects good players, but not to an extent that, and here's where my point comes in, that a team that needs a new player can just look at the Grandmaster ranking and say, this guy has to be good. He's playing the role that we want. We've played with that guy a little bit. Let's give him a tryout, for example. That's why you get new blood in for just to give one example. In other games, that's literally how it works. I mean, StarCraft 2 is, of course, a one-on-one game, not a team game. But back then, if you were looking at players, or if a team, for example, were like, hey, we want to expand our StarCraft 2 roster, they could literally look at the Grandmaster ranking and say which of these guys has potential. In Heroes, that doesn't work to the same effect. There are people that could push to the number one spot, like Hero, for example, that got the attention then. But overall, the Grandmaster ranking right now doesn't really reflect what it, in my opinion, should. And I think with the matchmaking changes that we have a very good chance that this is going to happen sooner than later, that you have actual representation there. And it's going to make it easier for talented players that are on a high level or want to play in competitive to make a name for themselves and have their name out there. So Hero League then will hopefully become the gateway to competitive, which I wanted to be.
Do you think that in ways like the way that Hero League has been for the past year or so has stopped players from entering the game and adding new talent to like the competitive scene?
I think it probably contributed to it. I'm not so delusional that I say that this is the only reason why new players haven't really made it through. A lot of people also think that, I don't know, a lot of people that feel they need to get a shot are also not really willing to put the work in that they need to. For example, when you look at the amateur scene that we have in terms of tournaments, in terms of amateur leagues, be it NA, be it Europe, there's always chances to make a name for yourself. But I think a good Grandmaster ranking and having the opportunity to also make that happen in Hero League itself would make it easier and would like help the competitive scene. Because even in a lot of people don't know that there are amateur leagues out there or amateur tournaments where they can play. And even if they do, there's always the question, do you find 4 other players that play with you? Now, if you look at Heroes launch in Europe, they allow individual players to join. I'm pretty sure that's the same also in North America. You have other opportunities there as well. But it would still be better if it was within the client. So I think it's just another piece in the puzzle. I don't think that problem with EuroLeague is the only reason why, but I think it's a piece in the puzzle that if that happens, it's going to make it easier for new talent to push through.
Yeah, cool.
You hit on a lot of points, Caldor, that I 100% agree with. I kind of remember us talking about this at the Spring Media Summit with some of the Blizzard developers. Like, I remember your opinion in particular was passionate, to say the least. And it really resonated with me because when you think about Hero League as it sits right now, I feel like a lot of it is just a war of attrition. Can you put in hours a day just grinding out games to get to the top? And like you said, that doesn't necessarily reflect on actual player skill. It's just like, I got the time to be able to do this. But my counter question, or I'm curious to see what your thoughts on, do you feel that Blizzard should try to more incentivize the hero, like the Grandmaster ranks in some kind of way? Because if you want to try to make, like, Hero League about actual skill, asking teams that are scrimming for money in HGC to not scrim and play Hero League instead, do you think some kind of leeway should be given there?
Okay, so there's a couple of things to it. It comes also down to, or it includes a little bit of question that was asked in chat. Someone just asked, the problem with Hero League is that people can't get to Grandmaster. The problem is that if you have the talent and the skill, like grinding is right now rewarded too much. So what the new system is going to do, it accelerates that people that are actually good will rise faster. And since it's a seasonal thing, that will then have the reflection. So if we now have all of a sudden a Grandmaster ranking that actually reflects skill more than amount of games played while still having a minimum skill, obviously. If you don't have that, you don't make it in there. Incentives can come like what we have with Nexus games now, for example. You have tournaments where the ranking that you have in Grandmaster affects if you can participate in them or not. So I love Nexus game. I absolutely love the idea. There's a couple of things that I would change, but that's always the case because, sometimes I have a different approach. It's also like the first time that they run this. I think it's a cool idea. It's absolutely awesome. I think they should do it at least once a year, if not even twice. And that would, for example, be a great incentive. I don't think that you can ever incentivize someone to play Hero League over scrims, just simply because scrims are on a completely different level. Right. Like in scrims, you learn more, you can practice more specifically, and the communication is also different. Voice chat is going to help a lot, especially on the higher level. You would expect that there's not as much toxicity in voice chat as we can expect on the lower levels. There's always going to be idiots, but especially the people that want to win will use it as the tool that it's supposed to be. So then you will also have, for example, more shared knowledge. My prime example with this is always, if you have people that don't know how to bait a Punisher on Infernal Shrines over a wall, you are going to fall behind. There is going to be that one idiot that stands in front of the gate, the Punisher jumps in, and all of a sudden, instead of losing a tower, you lose a fort, and you are 1.5 levels behind. If you try and type that in chat, you are going to just explode. If you can explain why, even if it doesn't happen for this game anymore, next time the guy knows. So all of a sudden, we hopefully have shared knowledge, which will increase the overall level of play. And then you have that also pushing into Hero League, and I think that is going to increase everybody's standard. Not to the extent that I would prioritize Hero League over scrims, but with a few additional changes, Team League might all of a sudden become an alternative if you don't find a scrim partner where you can at least do some things. Now, we are still a long way away from that to make Team League that place, but they are working on it, and I think they're making the right moves right now. So hopefully in the future, that is something that could happen. But I think until then, having Hero League, having a new matchmaking and voice chat, and hopefully Hero League, especially Grandmaster, becoming that gateway to competitive is going to be a good first step.
I gotta agree, man. The Nexus games this year, having the countries and things like that, I thought it was an ingenious idea to involve and reward the community for participating in Hero League. Would you think it's fair to say like do something like the Nexus games to some extent at the end of each Hero League season, maybe?
I don't know if you can do that also because okay, let's put it like this. I don't think you can make Nexus games happen after every Hero League season, just simply because for me personally, Nexus games is also something where you want to involve the entire community. So you have to broadcast it too, and you wouldn't want it to run over HGC. So making that every single season is probably not really practical. The question would rather be, can you do some kind of invitation tournament after a Hero League season, or maybe after every two? The problem is, how do you find the teams if that's really what you want to do? Because at this point, you have a nice selection rhythm. You just simply go by country. So do you do that every time? Probably can't really make it happen. If you don't go by country, what else do you do then? So if they find some kind of system, I would like that. I think for now, Nexus Games is what we have. And also, we have to still see if all of what I'm fanboying the new system and voice chat a little bit right now, and I really hope it works out that way, but I also might be wrong. So there might be problems that I'm not taking into account. There might be things that nobody really expects at this point, but that would be my ideal scenario of where we are, let's say, a year from now. Because the one problem that we still have with all of this is the time frame. The one thing that people, for example, that talk about the matchmaking system, forget is it's not going to be like the system start, like the new matchmaking comes in and on that day it's fantastic. Because matchmaking still needs time to actually change something. And just because you played 50 games within the last 3 days doesn't mean the guy that is in your team played a single game in that season already. So that is a problem that will just require a specific time frame for all of that to change too. So for the matchmaking, come back to your question with the incentive for every single season, they might put some incentives in. I mean, they do already with the special mounts for Grandmasters that they have. They could do probably more. But for now, I'm happy that Nexus Games just puts that on another level and also fills the content gap that we have after BlizzCon. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But it seems like it's a lot of like steps in the right direction.
Yeah. Like, I would have loved a lot of the things at release day. Not gonna lie.
Same.
I think it's a crime that we didn't have voice chat until now. But I love that it's there. Like, they make all the right steps right now. And when there's still I have a private to-do list for myself that is probably another 5 pages long for what I would love to see in the game. But they attack all that stuff. Like, they improve it over like step by step, and I love the direction that it's going. And I hope that it will have the effect that we want to, and it can only be getting better. I mean, let's keep in mind, this is the first year of HTC, for example. So this entire program that we have, let's go away from Hero League for a second. Right. It's the first year that we have it. So there's a lot of stuff to be done. For example, we can do much more with Open Division, in my opinion. There are still a lot of people that don't even know it exists or have no clue how they can participate in it. Even if you look at the big amateur leagues that we have in NA and in Europe, a lot of the players within the amateur scene that have a team have no clue what Open Division is. You have to think about how insane that is. So that alone is something where we can improve a lot over the next year. But you just have to take it one step at a time. So there's still a lot of potential, a lot of things to do, and there's countless points where we can attack and make it better. But yeah, it's just a process.
I'd be curious to see Caldor of the Storm. I know you have a lot of ideas. And it is cool that Blizzard's heading... I agree in a better direction in terms of both esports and community involvement. With all the things that are coming down the pipe, Caldor, what would you say is the most the thing you're most excited for.
With what we're having right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as I said, definitely matchmaking and voice chat. The thing is, I don't care about content. Like a new hero, I don't care at all. I care about a new hero. I care the second it arrives in scrims. That's when I care about the new hero. I will look at the skills and at the talents first, give it a first glance, but I'm not going to play it on the PTR. And I'm also like, when they have the hero reveal at a tournament or at BlizzCon and everybody gets hyped, I'm literally gonna sit behind the player and watch the scrim, and I don't care about the new hero whatsoever. It doesn't faze me at all. I'm rather gonna watch the scrim. And changes or stuff, or like a new talent that they introduce or a new map, also don't really matter to me. For me, it's really the systems around the game that are being changed, the competitive aspect that it gets affected. That's the stuff that really gets my blood pumping. Everything else is interesting and is cool, especially once that arrives in the game or in the competitive scene, because it changes drafting, it changes how I can maybe like set up my supports with Alex right now. So maybe there's a couple of cool strategies with Junkrat. How does displacement, for example, affect? Can I go for a full ping pong composition where I have Garrosh in here, throws them one way, Junkrat the other. Then you have Haymaker Muradin, you have a Stitches in there. Like all of a sudden, like heroes are just like bouncing around. So then I care. But before that, it's more the system that changes that interests me.
Cool. I mean, it's very. Thanks again for jumping on. Like, this is completely ad hoc, guys, for anyone that's showing up now. Caldor was kind of hanging out in the chat and was throwing some thoughts of wisdom. Said it'd be cool.
Knowledge bombs.
Knowledge bombs. So, yeah, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, he said he wants to scream every time he uses Colossus Smash. What a guy. What a guy.
Wait, what?
I'm looking at the chat. Good old Aether out here.
All the sound effects when people like do Colossus Smash and the Sonya yells and random Nazebo gibberish that people are going to yell as they do abilities.
Oh, with the voice chat stuff. Yeah. Like people are very worried about voice chat. For me, voice chat is just fantastic. The thing is, before I played Heroes, I played Dota 2. Mm-hmm. And the day I got my Heroes Alpha Key was the last day I played Dota. But back then it was fantastic, and we had the occasional angry idiot that would just like yell in voice, and you just muted it. So normally it was not the entire team talking in the chat, but it was just like maybe two people. And my favorite story is still that one point I played on a lane and I had another guy that was in a support. So I asked if he uses voice, and he's just like, yeah, sure, we can jump into voice. I talked to him. The lane worked perfectly. The two of us won the lane. We won the game eventually. It was fun playing with him. So I said, do you want to play a couple more games? And we played a few more matches. That was in Korea. When I was in Korea for StarCraft 2, it must have been around 2013, 2012. And I'm still in contact with the guy. The guy is from Alaska. He and his brother visited me in Germany. He visited me in California. We are pretty good friends, play a lot of games together, and that would have never happened if not for voice chat. So, I don't know. There's always negative stuff to talk about, but that's a positive experience, and I wouldn't want to miss that for the world. Like, that was just awesome.
Yeah. The positives far outweigh the negatives for voice chat.
Man, that's a powerful use case and proponent for voice chat for sure. Increasing the social narrative overall.
But I think I also took up enough of your time, guys. I didn't want to hog the...
We normally go for 60 to 90 minutes, and we're actually coming up on the 2-hour mark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to hog the podcast here. So, I appreciate the chance to talk, but at the same time, I feel bad for just...
No, man. HeroesHype Live, we go in with like a general layout, but it's very much involving those in the chat, offering their insight and wisdom. So, yeah, no problem at all, man. I know you gotta get ready. You gotta get ready to bike over to China. So someone in the chat was like, "Is he gonna bike over there?" I think he can do it. Perfect.
I actually go to Europe after China, so I take the opportunity to go to Germany for a few days, and I pick up my my personal birthday present to myself, which is a new bike that I bring over to the US.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I'm hyped for. That's going to be good.
Have you always been into biking? Or is it something that you started doing over here? Because I don't remember seeing stuff like that before.
To be honest, not to that extent. Like I had the road bike that I have with me here is one that I already owned in Europe. It's like by now 8 or 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And in Europe, if I would bike in the summer, and then if so, maybe once a week, if at all. So a little bit, and I always enjoyed it. But when I brought the bike over to California, that definitely kicked it in, because now I'm riding 3 to 5 times a week, depending on the week.
Mm-hmm.
Also has to do, I can't really go to the gym as much as I normally do because I still have a problem with one of my muscles in my forearm, which occasionally acts up, so I have to wait that out.
Sure.
But I love that anyways. Like the scenery here is insane. There are so many good routes here. It's crazy. We rode up Mount Bolly the other day, and that mountain alone is just so fantastic. We did a pretty big Grand Fondo with 113 miles in the Malibu Hills a few weeks back, and the scenery there is just insane. I thought Irvine was good, and then I saw that. Like, this over here is just heaven for biking. So yeah, it definitely stepped up since I came here, and yeah, hence the new bike now as well.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. It's been awesome having you over here on this side of the pond doing HGC stuff. 113 miles? Dude.
Yeah, 113 miles, and it was 11,000 feet of elevation.
Oh, wow. That's the killer.
There's going to be, like, right now, I have 2 guys at Blizzard that I ride with occasionally, and we already have some plans for next year. There is some crazy shit over here in this country. Like, seriously. We looked into it. There's a thing that they call, in California, you have certain achievements that you can get. There's a Triple Crown achievement. Like, Triple Crown is a reference to professional cycling, where you want to win several major tournaments in a year. But what they do here is they have Triple Crown, and it means there's certain rides where if you do 3 200-mile rides within the year, you are eligible for the Triple Crown jersey that you can get. And they have a few more crazy things like that, like a Grand Slam where you have to do, I think, 4 or 5 and get a certain elevation into. And we're currently toying with the idea of actually trying to get that. Problematic is, of course, that with me working on the weekends, usually with HGC, we can't do too many of those because we have to drive there. It's like usually a 2-day thing, since you have to arrive the day before. A lot of those rides start at 6 or 5 a.m. But yeah, right now, that's at least on the list for 2018, and maybe we're going to go through with that. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff. A couple of 200-mile rides in a single day with 15,000 feet of elevation. That's going to be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
If I survive that, even if you're even gonna try, that's a different story. But yeah, could be fun.
Good luck, man. And Matt Tomeo says that you need to bike Mount Whitney. I don't know anything about that, but yeah.
There's a couple of little mountains over here that are still on the list.
Yeah.
Like Baldy was my first real mountain. Everything else is just like hills, but that thing has, I think, tops out at 6,000 feet of elevation, something like that. So that was pretty cool. Riding uphill for like 2 or 3 hours in a row, that was quite something. But yeah,
I can't. I couldn't. I don't know how
you should give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. It's awesome.
I'm trying to move out to California next year. I'll give it a try, and on my tombstone, I'll be like, Caldor told me I should do it.
I'm currently trying to get half the Blizzard office involved.
Yeah, Caldor, man, it's been an amazing pleasure and honor to have you join us here on HeroesHype Live, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
No worries, and have a good rest of the show, and
We'll see you in
guys.
China.
Yeah,
definitely.
Man. Take it
Good
easy.
one, guys.
Bye.
Yep.
Well, what a pleasant surprise.
That was exciting.
Yeah. I don't know if I can fix the cameras in time. So
On the fly, we're doing it live.
Production value.
Absolutely
Live production.
live. But I mean, like I said, normally our episodes are 2 or like 60 minutes to 90 minutes. We've gone into the 2 hour range. We had an amazing host from Grubby, and Caldor
Thank
jumped
you.
in. We got a lot of EU love tonight.
Yeah,
About
so
that.
much EU love. That's exciting.
But yeah, we look to do these weekly. I think we're landing on Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern as the start time. We just talk about things going on in Heroes. We try to get the chat involved as much as possible. We want to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions. We want this to be the water cooler of the hero scene, where you come in and talk about what you want to talk about. You ask questions and things like that. Get involved. Yeah, it's been an amazing episode. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Always a pleasure to hang out and chat with Baby Buzz and good old fashioned Argy. They don't quite make him like this guy anymore. They don't make him like that anymore. You see this guy over here? Good old fashioned Argy out here.
They tried
Real
to.
good
I
boy.
didn't let them. They're selfish.
Denied. My name is Lauren as well. Hanging out. If you haven't hit the follow button on the Heroes Hype channel, please do. Plenty of content. We're going international. We got some Latin America amateur content as well. Plenty of amateur North American hype on Wednesday nights. Yeah.
Latin America on Sunday, and this show on Tuesday, and then all the other times during the week we have our stream team also, so you can check them out. We post a schedule every week. There's tons of really great hero streamers, from people that like want to be competitive to just like to play for fun, and of all skills and personalities. So there's always somebody to watch on Heroes Hype.
Yeah.
Including Gillyweed, who we just got today.
Oh, nice.
Hype, Gilly
Cheap.
Hype. Yeah.
Yeah, so follow the Heroes Hype channel on Twitter and here to get all the latest updates and things like that. Also head over to HeroesHype.com. Get some amazing content there. Plenty of cool articles written by Flag 5 in the link in the chat. So yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, guys. I had a ton of fun. Hope you guys did as well.
Thanks.
But, for now, we're going to round it out. You guys have an amazing night. Thank you.
You too. Bye.